Formula One wants less electricity and more gas in 2026. The new Nissan GTR is going to be a hybrid turbo V6 instead of a full-on electric vehicle. The Miata will remain all gas, the next-gen Miata that is. And GM is going to supply engines for their F1 team in 2029. Oddly, their next V car will be an electric vehicle crossover. Which one do I want to start with? I want to talk about Formula One. So this is according to an article in The Race. F1 could ditch a core part of its engine plan for 2026. Formula One chiefs will discuss with teams next week the idea of a significant change to 2026 engine rules aimed at heading off fears about cars repeatedly running out of energy. So it said it would be talked about next week. This article was written on April 20th. So I guess next week really does actually mean next week. So the idea would mean that Formula One moves away from the 50-50 power split. So that was going to be 50% electric and 50% gasoline power. And one of the big fears was that the drivers would actually run out of electric power on the straights, on tracks specifically with longer straights like Monza. And can you imagine the Formula One drivers having to lift whilst going down the straight in Monza? They're like 3/4 of the way. And then they're like, oh, beep, low battery, lift. Okay, give it the gas, lift. That would be insane. Let's see, Christian Horner said something about that in this article. So this is what he said. What we desperately want to avoid is a situation where drivers are lifting and coasting from halfway down the straight, he told The Race. That will frustrate drivers. It will be bad for the spectacle of out-and-out racing. Oh my gosh, I agree. As if Formula One didn't already have enough problems with the spectacle of out-and-out racing. The fact that drivers have to back off of the car in front of them to avoid dirty air, and that dirty air lasts for like 2.5 seconds. So you have to be 2.5 seconds behind the next guy so that you don't burn out your tires during a race. I can only imagine. Not only that, because I'm not certain that the 2026 cars are going to alleviate all of the dirty air conundrums that the current regulations are facing. But can you imagine staying 2.5 seconds behind and then also running out of battery on the straights? Another thing is that would be terrible advertising for electric vehicles. It'd be terrible advertising for hybrids. So Formula One is actually kind of stuck making this decision, because if Formula One is a growing sport, especially in the United States, if fans see Formula One cars struggling on a racetrack because they are 50% electric, that is bad advertising. I would not want one after seeing a race like that. So the idea is to pull the battery power down from 350 kilowatts to 200 kilowatts. And that is, I think they said something like, instead of it being a 50-50 split, it would be a 64-36 split, and the current split is 85-15 in the current regulations, which I think is also, 85-15, moving up to 36% electricity. That's kind of a big jump. I'm glad that they're rethinking the 50-50 thing, because that's adding extra junk for no reason, adding extra hardship for no reason. Let's see, who else has weighed in on it? So Mercedes F1 CEO Toto Wolff has made it clear that he is against any move to change the regulations in such a way before the cars are seen in action for the first time. So Toto Wolff actually wants more electricity. He wants the 50-50 split. Now, I don't know if that's because he loves electric vehicles or the idea of of electric vehicles. I mean, Mercedes has the EQS series, the electric G-Wagon, and all that kind of stuff. Those cars aren't really doing that well. But it could be that Total Wolf feels like Mercedes has a little bit of an advantage in the electric department. Definitely, they would have more of an advantage than, say, somebody like Ferrari or Aston Martin. So they're like, yeah, bring it. Bring the electricity. Anyway, there's not really that much to say about this one. I'm going to move on. So Nissan is saying that the next generation GTR will use a hybrid powertrain instead of a purely electric one as previously indicated. And so a report from The Drive shows that the next generation GTR will be a hybrid rather than an EV. As was previously reported by the company, the news comes courtesy of an interview with Nissan's chief planning officer in North America, Hans Pandikuthira. Hans Pandikuthira. Yeah, I think I said it. Who spoke to the outlet at the New York Auto Show. Now, if we go back and think through the Dodge Charger electric vehicle, my gosh, I did an episode on that. I even saw that car at the North Texas or North Dallas, whatever, Auto Expo, and people looked bored to tears with that car. And I'm sure Nissan doesn't want the same thing. Dodge is having a hard time shifting the electric Charger. Is it electric Charger? I don't know. Anyway. So Pandi Kuthira said, basically, it's like, let's see. He was talking about the fully electric GTR, and they took some prototypes apparently to the Nürburgring, and he said, basically it's like it would complete one lap at the Nürburgring, and then you have to recharge the car. And that charging is going to take you a while, and it's just not authentic. Now, I completely understood everything he said until he said it's just not authentic. Pet peeve. Authentic, it's just not authentic to charge. What does that mean? It's not authentic to charge your car. Not practical, maybe. Not fun, maybe. Authentic, we got to replace that word. Or actually, no, we just have to use it correctly. You just built, let's see, even with the potential for solid-state batteries, Pandikuthira said electric GTR doesn't make sense. Thank you. You just built a thing to check that box that you have a GTR, but it's not really a GTR. No electric. I don't think you'll deliver with the technology that we have now, or even with solid-state, the kind of performance that's expected out of a GTR. Now, admittedly, that sentence was kind of backwards for how I would say it. I'm going to read it one more time. No, electric. I don't think you'll deliver with the technology that we have now, or even with solid state, comma, pause for emphasis, the kind of performance that it's expected out of a GTR. There, we said it. Basically, he agrees with me, and he thinks that electric sports cars are kind of crazy. And then the other article is the Mazda Miata's future is in good hands. Mazda is already planning the 5th generation of the evergreen sports car, and that will be sticking with the lightweight construction, natural aspiration, and a manual gearbox. Mazda, I love you. That is just too cool. Really? Enough said on that. Enough said. And then finally, FIA approves GM as Formula One engine supplier from 2029 on. I think they were going to be the engine supplier for 2028, but it looks like that has changed to 2029. And then let's see, there is a part in here that says, and this is an article from Reuters. It would make little financial sense to design a hugely expensive power unit that might only have a 2-year shelf life. But the sport could bring back V8 or V10 engines before 2030, with 29 mooted as a possibility. I don't even know what that means. Mooted as a possibility. I guess it's a possibility. Anyway, honestly, I think that's it. I think that's it for the episode. Not really that much to report, although it was 11 minutes long. Yeah, I just thought you guys should know these little tidbits of information. And it's not a race weekend. I should have saved this. I should have saved these articles for the weekend. You know what I do have? I did have an article about the expense of modern car repairs, and I kind of wanted to touch on that. So maybe that'll be the Monday video, because it is getting really expensive to fix modern cars. I personally don't really even like to work on stuff that's before 2015. Not or that's after 2015. Not that the technology has really changed. Like, you still have headlights and batteries and alternators. It's just they all have to be programmed, like falsely programmed, because your car doesn't need a serial number typed into its computer to know what kind of electricity it's going to be partaking in when you start the car. Electricity, it's like water. It just is what it is. There's no special formula for it, at least not if you're doing it right. Well, that's it. That'll be the Monday video. I've been Dalton. This has been the Petrolist, and you have been great. Thanks for watching. I'm out.